Long before sugar ruled the world, the desert had its own sweetness. In the harshest landscapes of North America, where rain could disappear for years and crops failed without warning, one tree quietly kept people alive. For more than 4,000 years, its pods fed entire civilizations. Then, almost overnight in historical terms, it was nearly wiped out. Burned, poisoned, labeled a weed. What no one realized was this: the tree never left. This is the story of Mesquite, the forgotten tree that once sweetened life, healed land, and may be one of the few crops built for what comes next. Welcome to Nature Lost Walt. Our archive opens in the Sonoran Desert near present-day Tucson, Arizona. In 1998, archaeologists uncovered clay jars buried deep in the soil. Inside them were mesquite seeds, perfectly preserved. When tested, they still germinated. 4,000 years later, the people who stored those seeds left no written records. But they understood something modern agriculture forgot. In a land where rivers vanished and corn failed, mesquite still produced food. It did this by breaking the rules. Its roots didn't stop at the surface. They pushed downward, over 100 feet deep, reaching ancient water far beyond drought. Later studies showed those roots could store hundreds of gallons of moisture, enough to survive years without rain. And what the tree produced was extraordinary. Each pod contained natural sugars, complete protein, and soluble fiber. When flowering, entire groves smelled like caramel and smoke. Ground into flour, the pods could be stored for months without spoilage. The Tohono O'odham called it their sugar. The Pima, Yaqui, and Apache depended on it. Families gathered pods as they fell, crushed them into flour, and fed whole villages. When Spanish explorers arrived in the 1500s, they were stunned. One described pods that tasted like honey itself. Another wrote a forest so dense they created their own ecosystems, entire communities living beneath the canopy. Mesquite asked for nothing. No irrigation, no fertilizer, no ownership. That was its mistake. By the late 1800s, everything changed. Ranchers arrived with cattle. Empires arrived with sugar cane. Profit replaced survival. Mesquite didn't fit the system. You couldn't control it. You couldn't patent it. You couldn't make people dependent on it. So it was declared a problem. Millions of acres were cleared. Trees were burned. Fields were poisoned. But mesquite has a memory longer than empire. Cut it down and it returns. Burn it and it multiplies. For every trunk removed, new shoots rise from the roots. After decades of chemical warfare, the U.S. Department of Agriculture admitted the truth in 1948. Mesquite cannot be eradicated. And while humans were busy fighting it, the tree was fixing their mistakes. When ranchers stripped the land bare, the soil collapsed. Rivers dried, grass vanished, cattle starved. Then mesquite came back. Its roots pulled nitrogen from the air, something only a few plants on Earth can do. It fed dead soil back to life. Under its shade, grasses returned. Wildlife followed. By the 1970s, ecologists gave mesquite a new title, keystone species. The desert didn't survive despite it. It survived because of it. And then the world started facing a different problem. By the 1990s, drought intensified. Water disappeared. Farmers searched for crops that could survive without it. At the same time, sugar consumption exploded. More sweetness, more disease, diabetes rates tripled worldwide. Scientists went looking for alternatives. And once again, they turned to the desert. In 2005, researchers at the University of Arizona discovered something critical. Mesquite's sweetness doesn't spike blood sugar. Its sugars, called fructooligosaccharides, feed gut bacteria instead of crashing energy levels. Its glycemic index is low, safe for people managing diabetes. One scientist wrote, "It's sugar that heals instead of harms." Health stores took notice. By 2010, mesquite flour was selling as a premium product. Chefs began baking bread, making ice cream, even sweetening coffee with it. An ancient survival food had become a modern luxury. But the real revival didn't come from laboratories. It came from memory. Indigenous families never forgot. Seeds were passed down quietly, hidden in jars, saved for the right time. In 2013, a Tohono O'odham farmer planted seeds using her grandmother's method near dry washes where water once flowed. Within 2 years, the trees were heavy with pods. She said the smell brought back childhood mornings. By 2018, community seed banks across the Southwest began collecting native varieties. Botanists identified more than 30 species, each adapted to extreme conditions. The world was relearning an old truth. Real resilience isn't engineered, it grows. By 2020, drought shattered records. Wheat yields collapsed. Farmland cracked open. Scientists asked one question: what survives when everything else fails? The answer kept pointing back to mesquite. NASA researchers studying sustainable crops noted its roots could reach over 200 feet deep. One called it less a tree, more a lesson. Governments finally listened. Mexico began replanting hundreds of thousands of hectares. Farmers across Africa, India, and South America followed. The United Nations labeled it a forgotten crop of survival, once erased, now essential. Mesquite isn't a miracle of the future. It's a reminder from the past. The solutions to tomorrow's hunger may already be growing beneath our feet, waiting for us to stop calling them weeds. If this vault unlocked something for you, subscribe. These stories don't survive unless they're remembered. The next archive opens soon.